There's a tension in your shoulders right now. You might not have noticed it until I just said that, but it's there. That tightness that's been building so gradually. It stopped feeling like tension and started feeling like just you. Your breath is probably a little shallow, not deep, not full, just enough to get through the morning. And underneath all of that, there's something else, a quiet pressure, the feeling that you should be doing this better, feeling more, noticing more, appreciating more. Maybe someone told you to practice gratitude. Maybe you told yourself. You've heard it enough. Be grateful. Focus on the good. Find the silver lining. So you tried. You made the lists. You said the words. And still, something about it felt hollow, like a self-help habit that never quite lands anywhere real. Here's what I want to say before anything else. That hollow feeling isn't a failure of gratitude. It's a sign that what you were practicing wasn't actually gratitude. Positivity and gratitude sound like the same thing. They're not. And Buddhism, for over 2,000 years, has understood exactly why. Today we're going to move through that difference slowly, starting in the body, coming into the present moment, looking honestly at what accumulated stress does to the mind, and ending with a Buddhist teaching about letting go that reframes what gratitude actually is. As Buddha said, let us rise up and be thankful. For if we didn't learn a lot today, at least we learned a little. And if we didn't learn a little, at least we didn't get sick. And if we got sick, at least we didn't die. Read that slowly. There's no instruction to think positive thoughts. No command to shift your mindset or focus on the bright side. Just a clear, unhurried look at what's real. And a recognition that even inside difficulty, something remains worth seeing. That's not positivity. That's something else entirely. Let's find out what. Start right where you are. Not where you'd like to be by the end of this. Not the calmer, more together version of yourself you're working toward. Right here, in this body, this breath. This morning, feel your feet on the floor. Feel the weight of your body wherever you're settled. Feel your hands. Are they resting easily, or are they slightly braced, already ready for the next thing? And those shoulders, still tight, still carrying something. You haven't had the space to set down yet. Here's the first place where positivity and real gratitude split apart. Positivity looks at that tension and says, release it. Breathe through it. Choose something better to focus on. Don't stay in the discomfort. Move toward the light. And so you try. You breathe. You remind yourself of something good. You reach for appreciation, and the tension is still there. So you assume you failed at the practice, that you're not a naturally grateful person, that self-help works for other people, just not for you. That's not a personal failure. That's what happens when you apply the wrong tool. And most of us have been handed the wrong tool, dressed up as wisdom, packaged as self-help, presented as what gratitude is supposed to look like. Buddhism says something completely different about that tension. Your body is not an obstacle to gratitude. Your body is where gratitude actually has to begin. That tightness in your shoulders is information. It's your body holding the truth of your inner world, the things you haven't had time to feel, the weight you've been carrying without fully naming it, the reality of what's going on inside you that your mind keeps trying to manage and override. Mindfulness, the core awareness practice in Buddhist teaching, was never designed to clear the body of uncomfortable sensation. It was designed to teach you how to listen to it, to bring your full attention to what's actually here and stay with it. Without flinching, without fixing. To feel the tension and say quietly to yourself, I feel this. I'm not going to pretend I don't. That's not negativity. That's not dwelling. That's honesty. And honesty is the ground that real gratitude has to grow from. Because here's what happens when you practice positivity long enough. You train yourself to look away from what's uncomfortable. And when you get good at that, you don't just look away from the painful things. You look away from the quiet, true things too. The way a room feels in the morning before the day begins. The particular weight of a day that's going slowly. The small, wordless recognition that you made it through something hard. These things don't announce themselves loudly. They're there, just underneath the noise, waiting to be noticed. And the body is where that noticing begins. Not in a thought, not in a gratitude list, not in motivation or intention. Here, in the physical reality of this moment. So feel the shoulders. Don't try to fix them. Don't breathe them away. Just feel them. And notice that you can hold that tension and still be here. Still present. Still breathing. Still capable of paying attention. That act, that small, honest act of feeling what's real, is closer to real gratitude than any list you've ever written. Because it's true, because it's yours, because it doesn't ask you to be anywhere other than where you actually are. Now let's look at what it really means to be here. Not what the self-help world says it means. Not the version where presence is a warm, peaceful feeling that arrives when everything else goes quiet. There's a version of presence that's quietly become another form of positivity. It says, come into the now and find peace there. The present moment is a refuge from your thoughts, a place to escape the weight of everything unresolved. That's not what Buddhist mindfulness actually teaches. Thich Nhat Hanh wrote that the present moment is the only place where life is available. But life, real life, includes everything that's present, not just the peaceful parts, not just what's easy to appreciate. All of it. The tension in your body is part of this moment. The thoughts still running in the back of your mind, those are part of this moment too. The tiredness, the low hum, the shallow breath, all of it is here. All of it is real. And this is exactly where positivity gets it wrong. Positive thinking says, come into the now and look for what's good. Buddhism says, come into the now and see what's actually true. These sound nearly the same. They produce completely different results. One narrows your attention. Good things in focus. Hard things blurred. One expands your attention. Everything visible. Nothing filtered. There's a word in Buddhist teaching, mudita, often translated as sympathetic joy. A clear-eyed, unguarded appreciation for what is good. Not because you filtered out the difficult, but because you've expanded your awareness wide enough to hold both. Mudita is not a decision to think positive thoughts. It's what becomes possible when you stop managing what you're willing to see. A person practicing mudita can move through a difficult week and still notice the light through the window. Still feel something real when someone says something kind. Still register the warmth of a cup in both hands. Not because they've decided to ignore what's hard, because they haven't narrowed their attention down to only what's painful. They're seeing everything. And within all of it, there is always something worth noticing. That's the capacity positivity promises but can't deliver. Because positivity is selective. It curates. And curation, however well-intentioned, is still looking away. When you bring your full attention to this moment, not the edited version, the full version, something surprising happens. Yes, you find the tension, the shallow breath, the weight, but right alongside all of that, you also find the fact that you're here, that you woke up this morning, that your body is breathing without being asked, that something in you is still willing to slow down and look. Positivity says, focus on those things instead of the hard parts. Real gratitude says, all of it is true at once, and you don't have to choose. That's a bigger and more honest field of vision. And it doesn't require your life to be going well. It doesn't require you to have arrived somewhere or finished your growth or figured everything out. It requires your attention. The Buddha taught that suffering grows from craving, from the relentless habit of wanting our thoughts and reality to be other than they are, wanting the tension gone before we breathe, wanting to feel better before we've done the work of actually feeling. And the antidote in Buddhist wisdom is not forcing yourself to feel good. The antidote is learning to see more clearly, to look at this moment exactly as it is and find what's genuinely here, not what you've decided should be here, not only what's painful, the whole thing. Unfiltered. True? That's what presence means in Buddhist practice. Not a mood, not a performance, a quality of seeing, and it's already available right now in this exact moment, in this body. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to fix anything first. You just have to be willing to look. And when you practice that kind of looking, honestly, without filtering, you start to notice something about stress too. Here's something that rarely gets said clearly enough. Forced positivity doesn't just fail to help with stress. In many cases, it quietly makes it worse. Here's how. When you're carrying something genuinely hard, when the exhaustion is real, the tension is real, when something in your life is costing you more than you've admitted, and someone hands you the instruction to focus on the good, to shift your mindset, part of you hears a message underneath that instruction. Your struggle is the problem. Your pain is what needs to be fixed. So now you're not just carrying the original difficulty, you're carrying it plus the belief that you're handling it wrong, that other people manage this better, that your inability to think positive thoughts is a character flaw. That's not healing. That's a second layer of weight placed on top of the first. Buddhism understands stress very differently. The first noble truth, one of the foundational teachings of Buddhist philosophy, is the honest acknowledgement of dukkha, discomfort, tension, the persistent feeling that something is off. And Buddhism doesn't call that a problem to overcome. It calls it a truth to understand. Your stress is pointing somewhere. It's telling you that something matters deeply to you, that you are paying attention, even if the attention is coming out sideways, as tightness and exhaustion. When you stop treating stress as the enemy of gratitude, you can actually hear what it knows. You can ask, what is this tension trying to tell me? What is my body holding that I haven't had time to listen to yet? That question opens something. And from that open place, real gratitude becomes possible. Not as a replacement for honest feeling, but as something that exists right alongside it. Now here's what stress does structurally over time. When pressure accumulates, day after day, Week after week, your field of awareness begins to narrow. The small things stop reaching you. The quality of light at a certain hour. A moment of quiet between two loud parts of the day. Someone saying something kind when you weren't expecting it. These things are still there. They haven't gone anywhere. You've just lost the capacity to register them. Your attention is fully consumed elsewhere by the problem you're tracking, the task you haven't finished, the thoughts and memories you keep replaying on a loop. In Buddhist thought, this is the monkey mind, the mind that never stops swinging, from worry to memory to planning to dread, and back again, never landing, never resting. And when the monkey mind is running things, both positivity and real gratitude fail, because both require you to actually notice something. And noticing requires presence, and presence requires returning, not once, not dramatically, again and again, without judgment, without ceremony, to where you actually are. One breath, one moment of feeling your feet on the floor. One pause, short enough that you won't talk yourself out of it, where you stop adding to the noise and let things be as they are. That returning, small, quiet, unglamorous, is how you rebuild your capacity to see, to notice, to find, even in the middle of a hard week, what's actually present alongside the difficulty. That finding, honest, unforced, unfiltered, is where real gratitude lives. Not in the list, not in the mood, in the seeing. And here's what's worth understanding about that seeing. The moments of genuine noticing, the ones that actually move you. They don't happen when you're trying to be grateful. They happen when you're simply present enough to register what's already here. The way a room changes when the light shifts in the afternoon. The strange relief of finishing something you'd been putting off for weeks. The specific comfort of a familiar sound, rain, or a voice you know well, or the quiet that settles after a long day. These are the moments mindfulness makes room for, not by adding anything, by clearing enough of the noise that you can actually feel them when they arrive. That's the real motivation behind Buddhist practice. Not peace as a destination, clarity as a daily, ordinary, available right now way of moving through your actual life. Now let's come to the teaching that changes everything. There's a version of letting go in modern self-help that's quietly become another form of positivity. It says, release the hard things. Move toward peace. Look forward. Stop holding on to what hurts. That's positivity wearing a Buddhist costume. And like positivity, it asks you to look away. Real letting go in Buddhist thought is more specific and more honest. It means releasing your grip on a story, not the facts of what's hard, not the reality of the difficulty itself. The story you've attached to the facts, the layer of meaning placed on top of what's real. Here's the difference in practice. You are tired. That's a fact. But the story that grows around that fact sounds like this. My thoughts always go to the worst version of things. I'll always feel this way. I've lost something, and it's not coming back. This is just who I am now. The fact stays. The story can go. You tried to feel grateful, and it felt hollow. Also a fact. But the story, I'm not a grateful person. Something is wrong with me. Self-help works for other people, just not for me. The fact stays. That story too can go. When you release the story, not the truth, not the difficulty. just the layer of meaning that makes everything feel permanent and total. What remains is simpler and quieter and more honest than anything positivity ever gave you. Because positivity tries to replace the hard parts with good feelings. Buddhist gratitude doesn't replace anything. It expands your field of vision wide enough to hold everything at once. The difficulty and the good, the tension and the warmth, the struggle and the quiet fact that you are still here. The Buddha said, "The mind is everything. What you think, you become." Not that your circumstances are irrelevant. Not that the hard things don't matter, but that the story you carry about your circumstances, the meaning you assign, the permanence you assume, shapes your reality far more than the raw facts ever could. And when you release that story, you find what the noise was covering. The fact that your body has carried you through every hard thing that's happened. The fact that you are still here, still reaching, still willing to look. Think about what that actually means, not in an abstract motivational way. Right now, your lungs expanded and contracted without you asking them to. Your heart beat through every difficult moment of the past year, through the ones that cost you something real, and it's still going right now, without interruption. Positivity looks at that and says, look, just focus on the good. Real gratitude looks at that and says, this is worth seeing. And I can only see it clearly because I stopped looking away. That's the difference. One discovers goodness by filtering. The other discovers it by seeing more, not less. By expanding awareness instead of narrowing it, by bringing honesty and compassion to the whole experience, not just the parts that feel safe to acknowledge. This is what Buddhist wisdom has always understood. Not gratitude as a mood, not gratitude as a self-help discipline you maintain through consistency. Gratitude as a natural response to honest seeing. What remains when you stop demanding that life look different than it does? What's available to you right now, in this body, in this moment. And this is why it matters that we started in the body. Why we came into the present moment exactly as it was, not a cleaned up version of it. Why we looked honestly at what stress does to the mind, instead of reaching for something that would make it feel better, faster. Because real gratitude isn't a shortcut. It's not a self-help tool you pick up and put down. It's what grows when you stop treating your inner world as something to manage and fix, and start treating it as something worth actually knowing. Your thoughts, your tension, your reality as it is, all of it, honestly, with compassion. That's where gratitude lives, not in the performance, in the presence. And that's available to you. Not someday, not when things settle down. Right now, exactly as you are. Let's come back to where we started. The tight shoulders, the shallow breath, the hollow feeling of trying to be grateful and wondering why it never quite lands. Now you know why it felt hollow. Not because you were doing it wrong, because what you were practicing was positivity wearing gratitude's clothes. Here's what we moved through together today. We started in the body. Positivity asks you to breathe through the tension and move on. Real gratitude starts by feeling it honestly, because your body isn't the obstacle. It's where awareness begins. We came into the present moment, not to find peace, but to see what's actually true. Mudita, clear-eyed appreciation, doesn't filter anything out. It expands wide enough to hold the hard parts and the good parts, the weight and the warmth, all of it. Honestly, we looked at what stress does to the mind over time. Forced positivity adds a second layer of pain. The belief that your struggle is something to fix, not something to understand. Buddhist wisdom treats stress as information, and the way back to noticing your own life is through returning again and again without judgment. And we looked at what letting go actually means. Not releasing the difficulty, not pretending, releasing the story that makes everything feel permanent and total. Because when the story goes, what remains is bigger and more honest than positivity ever gave you. You don't need to feel good to be here. You don't need to resolve what's hard before you're allowed to see what's good. Both are present. Both are true. They always have been. So take a breath now, a real one, a full one, not to arrive somewhere better, just to come back to where you already are. Feel those shoulders. Don't change. Just feel them and notice that you can hold all of this and still be present. Still here, still capable of seeing, and somewhere in that honest seeing, you might find something you didn't manufacture, something quiet, something real, something that was waiting the whole time for you to stop looking away. That's gratitude, the kind Buddhism has always been pointing toward. If this touched something real in you today, share it with someone who might need to hear it. Subscribe for more teachings rooted in Buddhist wisdom, built for the life you're actually living, not the one you think you should have. We'll see you in the next one.